Okay, we'll call the, we'll call the, Legal Affairs Committee meeting to order. Please join me in the allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call roll.
Director Thomas,
I'm here.
Director Davidson.
Here. Item number 2 on our agenda is public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the committee on non-agendized items. The public is encouraged to work through staff. Place items on the agenda for consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public?
Are we going to get back to the public comment? Or are we going to, or should we have the report?
He has got a 1:30.
Okay, well, let's, if you'll allow us, we're going to get this report from our, from Mia O'Connell, and then we will get back to the public comment. They're on unagendized items anyway, so you may still comment on this item, but public comment will come after. Okay, Mia?
Thank you. Well, the big news, of course, right now is with Senator Feinstein passing, and what that means for everyone in California. Senator Butler, who has been appointed by the governor, is being sworn in today. And it is unclear how she will staff her areas, but hopefully, she's smart. She will take some of the Feinstein people who've been hard at work for many years, at least for a while, to carry things through, because we're right at a, key point, but we'll see. It's really too early to get much information from the staff who is still grieving from the Feinstein office and the new staff that really hasn't come on board yet. So we also have another senator, of course, Senator Padilla, who we've been in touch with their office. They understand what we're looking for, both on appropriations and on authorization. They have been helpful. They intend to continue to be helpful. Again, just to remind everyone, for fiscal year 24 appropriations, which is the cycle that we're working on right now, we've got 11.2 million in the Senate energy and water bill. We are looking to hold on to that in conference between the House and the Senate. Of course, the House has got their own share of interesting challenges right now, looking at deciding whether they're going to keep the speaker in place or not. They're also discussing maybe moving to the energy and water appropriations bill, the bill that funds the Corps of Engineers, possibly this week. There's been a lot of amendments that are pending that would go to reduce funding for the bill. So too early to tell how that's going to play out, but we are on it in terms of keeping Senator Padilla focused on what we're looking for, and also monitoring very closely how Senator Butler is going to move forward on these issues that are in play right now. But as you know, the core process also has another kind of leg to it. We've got the appropriations process, and that then ultimately feeds the final decision making for the fiscal year 24 allocation. And that document is referred to as the work plan. And it's the Corps of Engineers and the administration that basically takes the appropriations that Congress funds and then decides how much each project is going to get. For projects that have been earmarked, like at this point in time, ours is earmarked. If it stays earmarked in the conference, which is what we're working on, that would be fantastic and make our lives a whole bunch easier in the work plan. Typically, the Corps will go with whatever is earmarked, but Congress also provides additional funds if everything is not funded the way that Congress intended. So there is some flexibility there. We are working on that administrative part of it right now. with Congressman McClintock's office, and I've sent a letter over there asking them to send it forward to the Assistant Secretary of the Army, as he has done in the past, seeking the 11.2 million in the work plan for construction of Copper Cove. So we've got all of our venues in play right now, both the administrative side and the appropriation side. Even with all the tumult going on, we're just focusing on our end game. The same time, on Copper Cove, we know that the costs have increased on the total project cost. So we have put together a request to raise the federal share from the 13,280,000 up to the 16,300,000, which is what the Corps tells us their share will be. We've submitted a Section 7001 report request to Corps headquarters, working with Michael's staff on that to administratively ask that that be increased. What the Corps does is put together their recommendations for that report and sends that forward to Congress next year. And that also becomes part of the WRDA legislation. So we've got an administrative avenue for the authorization moving forward. At the same time, there was a Water Resources Development Act request, which is the Corps of Engineers authorization bill. And we submitted forms to both Senator Feinstein and Senator Padilla's office, and got those in for the same increase to increase the federal share of the project. So we've got a couple of avenues moving forward for the authorization and increasing the total project cost for Copper Cove, so we can continue that and complete that project. The final main item is the DC trip that we have planned for October 17th and 18th right now. We had sent you, I think, calendar invites, and I'll be sending you the full schedule and the talking points in the brochure as we get a little bit closer. But essentially what we have right now on the 17th is a strategy session to go through all of our requests and all our meetings and discuss best approaches for each meeting, as we do. And then we'll move on to a meeting with Senator Padilla's office, the woman who handles both the appropriations and the authorization, so we can talk about both of our issues there with Senator Padilla's office Tuesday morning, October 17th. For the 18th, at this point, we're going to be going over to the Pentagon to see the Assistant Secretary of the Army's person who handles all budget matters. And we've got a 10 o'clock appointment there. We'll be starting early to get through security, etc. And then we have a 2 o'clock meeting on the 18th with Congressman McClintock, where, of course, we'll be laying out a request one more time. And at that point, hopefully he sent his letter in and we've had some follow-up done there. And we'll also brief him on the WRDA request. My assumption is he's not going to submit what he would probably consider would be an earmark in the authorization process, but we can have that discussion with him there. We also have a couple of appointments that are not going to be in person because of scheduling matters, but they will be virtual, both of them on November 1st. The first one with our OMB person who handles the Corps of Engineers, Maria Kim, who we have met in the past. And then we'll be meeting later that day with Tab Brown, who handles all the program, the funding matters for the Corps of Engineers at Corps headquarters. And we've met with him and you know him well, so that should be a good session. We also had, requests into Senator Feinstein's office. Of course, that's no longer going forward. So we will be seeing what is going on with Senator Butler's office, if they have people available to meet with us, if there will be staff carrying over from Feinstein's office, or if they don't have people in place, we will see. We're going to be very flexible about what we can do with the new senator and how she's proceeding. Those are the highlights for now. So bottom line is we're proceeding on all fronts despite a tumultuous and difficult time for Californians.
Mia,
Yep.
Michael, he had mentioned that we were going to get an email from the Pentagon for security or clearance.
Yeah.
I have not found that.
Oh, okay. Well, I've received mine. I
Did
will
you?
double
Yeah, I
check
got
that
mine.
yours was sent. We sent in everybody's names and emails. But I will make a note right now to have my office follow up with the Pentagon. Michael, did you get yours?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do we know if Scott got his?
I can check with him.
Okay.
Because I looked
Oh.
at, when I
And then-
open the company laptop, I've got two different places that I have to look.
Yeah.
And I mean, I get emails from you on both places, but I don't get them from both. And I don't know when it would have come, but I've been keeping an eye
It
on it.
was last week, I think.
It
is
was
when I got
last
mine.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Okay.
wouldn't mind checking, I'll
Absolutely.
try again. I'll look deeper.
Absolutely. I mean, do you have more than one email?
Well, the one that works best is my personal one, but we're on the water district
Yeah.
deal, so I should be able to get it I get emails from people, but they're just hard to find because it's like
Okay.
I've got
Okay.
I've got two different categories for whatever reason,
Okay.
and I get them. I don't know what qualifies.
We'll figure that out.
I get 100 from that tax something or other.
Okay.
I get 4 or
We
5 a
will
day from
follow up
some
Oh, wow.
random.
with the Pentagon folks, and Michael, if you wouldn't mind checking with Scott as well to make sure we're covered there.
Will do. And Mia, I think well, I mean, just first of all, in general, you know, it's Senator Feinstein's staff was so helpful for us. So obviously a big loss for California, but specifically for CCWD as well. And I hope if nobody else, it would be a shame to lose John Watts in that process and all of his institutional knowledge and all he's done for California water. So I hope Senator Butler will consider him.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Alexis handles the Corps of Engineers, and she has been unbelievable.
She's been great.
I
Yeah.
mean, I worked with her from her first day on, and it's been many years. So she's really been our go-to on Corps of Engineers. She handled it for
Yeah.
the Senator.
Me-
So, yeah, I'm on it.
Me-
We will see how this develops. We'll see how Senator Butler wants to proceed.
Mia, just out of curiosity,
Yep.
I'd spoken with or emailed Michael about perhaps putting together, something that kind of explains our relationship over the years with the senator and all the support that she's given us on our projects, and maybe even making a recommendation to our new senator about those staff members. I think we certainly need to recognize that, Senator Feinstein was terrific for water, and particularly for us. And, we need to recognize that and those people that work so hard, to support us. So if maybe you and Michael could put
Yeah.
together something that discusses the projects that we funded over the years that that she supported, I think that would be a valuable asset for everybody.
Absolutely.
Will do. Yeah. And then otherwise, Mia, just a quick update that you may not have heard yet, but we're still meeting regularly with the SAC district of the Army Corps. We're expecting this week, I haven't seen it yet, but we're expecting this week the signed letter report and project
PPA.
partnership.
Mhm.
Yeah, the PPA, the project partnership agreement. And that would be a big development for us. We've had to put some things on hold, waiting for those things to get done. And now we can get going full speed again on that. So hoping to see it. We'll have another regular meeting with the SAC district Thursday morning. So if we don't have those things in hand by then, we'll get an update on what the holdup is, but hopefully we'll have it done here soon.
Great, fantastic.
Okay, Mia, is that it? I know you gotta get.
Yeah, I think that covers it for now. And we'll be
All
in
right, well,
touch
we'll
as we go forward, aiming towards your visit and having everything done.
All right, we'll see you shortly.
All
Very
right,
good to
thank
see you.
you.
Mia, this is Russ. Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
All right, should we go to the public comment? Do we have that figured away? Yeah, hopefully our public is still here with us. I believe it was Ralph who was up first. Are you still with us?
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Ralph.
Yes, just a note, along the lines of what Mia was speaking about. On 9/21, I met with Kimberly Pruitt. She's a representative for Congressman McClintock. She was in Copperopolis for an hour to take questions from the constituents. So there were about, 9 of us in the conference room in Coppertown. And she said McClintock has a couple irons in the oven, one for forest restoration and another for firefighting jurisdictions, where they can cross between the federal lands and private lands to fight fires. So I found that pretty positive. He's also working on cutting red tape to create a one-stop shop for water projects, which I think is a good step. But my purpose there was to give her our new CCWD rates to hand carry to the congressman. I, again, asked her about his no earmark policy, but she was adamant that he will not participate in the earmarks, as we heard, the same thing from Mia. But I reinforced our need for any monies, whether it be grants or letters and so forth. So it sounds like he's pulling his weight, as Mia said, to work around his earmark situation. And she was very understanding of what went into the rate increase and how it affects the end user as well as the district itself. And she would be taking this information to the congressman directly. So I thought it was good for the public to give their 2 cents. And then that way, when you guys head in there to Washington, they already know what we're talking about. Anyway, thanks again. That's all I got.
Yeah, I can assure you, rates will come up in our meetings
Right.
for sure. Okay, I can't read the small print up there. Was there another person that was? Oh, Francisco, are you with us?
Yes, good afternoon, gentlemen. I just wanted a little bit of clarification. As a newbie to this committee, I don't know Mia from anything.
Oh, sorry, Francisco. Yeah, we should have introduced her, but she was on a as you heard. She usually operates that quickly, anyways. But she was on a short timeline today. Mia is a federal lobbyist. She's represented CCWD for many years, even going back before my time here, and she also works with Calaveras County. So she's very familiar with our issues, and she's really, really effective.
Yeah.
That helps. Thank you.
Okay, is there any other public comment? Okay, what do we have next? State issues?
Yeah. So we're sorry that there wasn't any information in the packet without a water resources manager or an external affairs manager. We're short-staffed on the legal affairs committee, but we'll get that back to where it needs to be here shortly. Couple of state updates. Right now the legislative session is over. Everything is on the governor's desk and waiting for either signature or veto. A couple of things we're looking at, SB 389 of the major water rights legislative reform bills. SB 389 is the one that survived and is on the governor's desk. It's the one that gives the water board broader investigatory tools. And it essentially recognizes water board jurisdiction to investigate riparian and pre-1914 claims to water rights. So in the past, that's, water rights holders have always told the board they don't have jurisdiction over those things. The board has tried to assert jurisdiction in some instances, especially under emergency regulations. But this legislation would clarify that, yes, the board actually has the right to affirmatively seek confirmation of any claims to a riparian or a pre-14 right. So in the past, it's normally, and currently, it's usually the water rights holders themselves that are hashing out those issues. So if we're claiming a pre-14 right to a stream and there's a downstream user that is harmed by that and disagrees with our claim to a pre-14 right, they would sue us. And that's how those things get enforced in the past. This would give the water board the authority to step in even before any litigation happens and say, we want you to provide us with the information, that the documentation that shows that you have a valid right, which is not something they can do right now. So it is definitely a lot, I guess watered down would be the pun. It's not as aggressive as it was in its initial drafts. This is something that Aqua lobbied heavily on, and amendments were taken. So it's something that is, it's something that I think the water industry in the end felt like we can live with. The other efforts on the water rights reform side will be back. And I don't know if it'll be next year or the year after, but the water rights reform effort is definitely not over. But that one, I could see it having a good chance that the governor will sign it. And I think specific to CCWD, we've had to defend our water rights over and over again in the past for the most part already. So I don't anticipate significant legal risk to CCWD here. And a lot of especially on the Stanislaus, those rights are adjudicated. It's very clear who has what. There's still disagreement, don't get me wrong, but there's a very robust record when it comes to the rights on the Stanislaus. The other two watersheds, there's some questions, but I don't think there's legal risk here for CCWD. If the water board comes calling and says, show us the basis for your water rights, we can answer those questions.
But Michael, you started off by saying in the past that if there was a dispute, that the downstream water user would sue, and they would be adjudicated and a decision would be made.
Yeah.
So under this investigative scenario, does a water board have the jurisdiction to make a decision on whether the rights are defendable?
Yes. Yeah. So this would give the water board that authority to essentially force whoever's claiming the water right to prove that they hold the right and that they have a valid basis for the right, meet all the criteria, the continuous use of that right, the beneficial use of the right, and the initial basis for the right. And as we know, that sometimes requires a historian and a lot of research going back into handwritten documents from the 1800s in some cases, and all of that can be a part of the water rights investigation. But yeah, now this would give the water board the authority to investigate those claims of that right, and I suspect they'll use it. I mean, the water board, it's interesting, they can be very difficult to deal with sometimes, and the backlog of water rights petitions that they have yet to get to, and requests for extensions and all those things, takes them years to get to. But they have received significant budget increases when it comes to enforcement. So I suspect they'll use this authority, and it was probably initiated by water board staff, so that they could use this authority to rein in exaggerated claims to water rights or claims that don't have a valid basis. And I think they'll go after that. I don't think there's a significant risk for CCWD there. We're pretty confident in the basis for our rights, but if there's water rights holders out there who are operating outside of the valid criteria for claims, that's what the water board's after.
So that they would essentially become that decision would be like a Supreme Court decision. It would not be challengeable by by us.
They'll be heavily
Yeah,
litigated.
it'll be, that's exactly what it'll be.
You know, that's an administrative agency reaching a decision that will then, I'm sure, go to court
All right.
in many cases.
And they haven't really supported much of the overreach, as far as I can tell, the Supreme Court, I mean. So, we'll see. Anything else, Michael?
Yeah, AB 338 is another one. I'm anxious to see what the governor does on that one. So AB 338 is the bill that would create the prevailing wage requirement for forest thinning projects. We have been an active part of the coalition in opposition to that bill. That coalition successfully convinced the governor to veto the bill last year. It was when it was AB 1717. It came back in exactly the same form this year. Amendments were made that remains to be seen whether the governor will sign it or not. But we're hoping for another veto on that issue this year. And then
What's the time frame for signing these?
I
It's
think you
like-
got another week or two. I want to say October 14th, if I remember correctly.
We've also got the fast food workers and the healthcare workers on that increased pay as well, right?
Yeah, I think there's legislation pending on that as well. Yeah, so all that has to be either signed or vetoed by the 14th. The last one is the one that when we met recently was Senator Alvarado Gill. We gave her an update on it's 1594 that would force CARB to go back and revisit the application of the Clean Fleets rule to water agencies. It's frankly one that flew below the radar through the whole legislative session, and we became aware of it recently and signed on to a letter of support that Aqua had proposed, and so we're hoping that works. It's not a guarantee that the rules of the Clean Fleet rule will be relaxed for water agencies, but it forces them to reopen that question. So hopefully it would provide more flexibility for water agencies, and it would force CARB to work with us to identify those situations where traditional vehicles aren't going to work or they're not available, and relax the restrictions for water agencies. So that's AB 1594, and we're hoping the governor will sign that one.
All right, is that it?
And then other than that, we reported out last week in our board meeting on this already, but as you both know, a very positive meeting with Senator Alvarado Gill, and we're working on some follow-up on that as well. And it was just great to see how engaged she is. Her priorities are very similarly aligned, I think, with CCWD's.
Yeah.
And she clearly demonstrated that she's, grasping those issues, and she's going to be proactive in addressing them. So I'm really optimistic about working with her in the next few years.
Yeah, I mean, again, the part I liked the best was she had an understanding that we don't have the population to afford to pay for some of these requirements that the urban agencies, can, and we just don't have the resources for that. We don't have the ratepayer base for a lot of that. And she seemed to say that she was going to start to seek population limits on some of these regulations, which I think would be a terrific thing. for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. So we'll keep working with her on that. That was all I had for now.
Okay. Director Thomas, do you have any comments? Future agenda items?
I'd like to see future spelled correctly.
Future. Okay. All right.
We'll work on that. We'll do some research, see what we can do.
What the heck happened? We'll get our tech guy on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. My fault.
Anything else, Russ?
No, I hope that you have a successful meeting or two or more in Washington. Seems like that there's a big furor going on back there.
Oh, there's always, I tell you, the times that we've been in DC, I've seen some, the first time I was there was the day that we started the war with Iraq.
Yeah.
And I was in the city, I saw all the protests, everything. It was just incredible. It was an incredible experience. So there's always something going. Anyway, I have nothing to comment on at this time. I will not be available for Friday. Did Scott take that for the UMRA meeting?
Yeah, Scott will cover UMRA and
And with any luck, I'll be back on the 11th, but it will mean that I shot a bull early. So we should all be hopeful for that.
So
All right.
if you don't, you won't.
What's that?
You'll still, if you.
Well,
don't-
the hunt stays is through Wednesday, so
Oh, okay.
we're usually pretty lucky. All right, with that, next meeting is December 5th.
unless I guess, should we check if there were any comments or questions on the state legislative update?
Are there any comments and questions on any of the state legislative report?
None for me, thank you.
Doesn't look like
Who's
it.
that?
Okay, I think we're good.
Okay, all right, thank you all for attending. Next meeting is December 5th at 1 PM. The meeting is adjourned.